You're standing in line at a car dealership. The salesman is showing off the newest model. Leather seats, that fresh car smell, a monthly payment that sounds almost reasonable if you don't do the math. And the man next in line, the one wearing a faded flannel shirt who could probably buy 3 of these cars without blinking, just shakes his head and walks straight past it to the used lot. That moment confuses people. We've been trained to believe the wealthier you get, the more you buy. But the people who actually retire with real lasting wealth in America do something almost nobody expects. They stop buying the exact things everyone else is still chasing. Today, I'm going to show you 10 of them. And by the end, you'll notice one thread running underneath every single item on this list. Something almost nobody was ever taught. My name is Sarah, and I've spent years studying the difference between people who look rich and people who actually are. Here's the entire idea in one sentence before we start. The people who stay wealthy have learned to tell the difference between what looks like wealth and what actually creates it. That's the whole game. Almost everything marketed to you is engineered to drain the second one while imitating the first. None of these people are misers, by the way. They spend freely on what matters: experiences, family, time. What they've built is a filter. And that filter can be learned at any age, on any income. If this helps you see your own spending differently, subscribe. Because we break down exactly this kind of thing every week. Number 10. Let's start with the one hiding in plain sight in nearly every driveway in America. The average new car crossed past $50,000 in late 2025. The moment you drive it off the lot, it starts losing value. Roughly 20% in the first year alone. Run that on a $50,000 car, and you've lost close to $10,000 in 12 months. By year 5, you've given back 60% of what you paid. That's not a transportation cost. That's value evaporating in your driveway while you sleep. Wealthy retirees let someone else absorb that steepest part of the curve. They buy a car that's 3 or 4 years old, already past the worst depreciation, still mechanically just as good. And then they do the part that actually builds the wealth. They keep it for 10 years, sometimes 12. Picture 2 neighbors earning the exact same paycheck. One buys new every 5 years and almost always carries a car payment. The other buys lightly used, drives it a decade, and invests the payment they're no longer making. 30 years later, the driveways look identical from the street. The bank accounts are not in the same universe. Number 9. This brings us back to that watch on the counter, because it explains more than any spreadsheet could. There's a myth that wealthy people are surrounded by glittering things. The research on real accumulated wealth tells a quieter story. A huge number of genuinely wealthy people drive ordinary cars and wear ordinary clothes. The reason is simple. A status purchase gives you a brief jolt of pride and a long tail of carrying costs. It needs insuring. It invites comparison. And worst of all, it triggers a chain reaction. The watch wants a car to match. The car wants an address to match. The address wants furniture to match. One small signal becomes an entire lifestyle, and the lifestyle quietly eats the freedom the money was supposed to buy. The people with real money figured out something the entire luxury industry is built to make you forget. The point of having money was never to look like you have it. It's the quiet, unglamorous calm of never needing anyone to know. Number 8. You've heard this pitch at every checkout counter in the country. For just a little extra, we'll protect your purchase. An extended warranty is just insurance, and insurance only makes sense when the loss would genuinely hurt you. The seller knows exactly how often the product fails, and exactly what repairs cost. And they price the plan, so they collect far more than they'll ever pay out. That gap is the entire business model. Wealthy retirees self-insure the small stuff. If a blender breaks 2 years in, they just replace it from a modest cushion they keep for exactly that. What they won't do is pay an ongoing premium to a stranger to carry a risk they can easily absorb themselves. They save their real insurance dollars for the things that could actually break them: a house fire, a serious illness, a lawsuit. Everything small and survivable, they carry on their own. Across a lifetime, declining hundreds of these tiny warranties adds up to real money that stays invested instead of disappearing into a corporate profit margin. Number 7, this one needs care because life insurance matters enormously when other people depend on your income. The trap isn't protection. It's being steered into the most expensive, most commission-heavy version of it. Whole life and universal life policies bundle insurance with a savings component, and the premiums can run many times the cost of simple term coverage for the same death benefit. A large chunk of those early premiums goes to commissions, not growth. If you can't explain in one plain sentence what a financial product does and how it makes money, you probably shouldn't own it. Whole life policies routinely fail that test. People who manage money well do the boring thing instead. They buy term insurance to cover the years their family is most vulnerable, the mortgage years, the kids at home years, for a fraction of the cost. Then they invest the difference themselves. Protection lives in one place. Investing lives in another. By retirement, the term policy has quietly expired, and the invested difference has grown into something real, instead of being trapped for decades in a contract designed to be expensive to leave. Number 6, this one hides in plain sight because the cost feels invisible while the damage is almost total. Actively managed funds charge well over 0.5% a year on average. A plain index fund often charges less than 0.1%. That sounds small. It is not. Over the past decade, roughly 2 out of every 3 actively managed funds failed to beat the index they were trying to outsmart. You're paying extra for the privilege of doing worse. Put numbers on it. $100,000 growing over 25 years, the gap between the high fee and the rock bottom fee comes out to close to $65,000. Silently lifted out of your future for performance that usually trails the market anyway. The wealthy treat fees the way a careful captain treats a slow leak below the waterline. They find it, they seal it, and they refuse to keep paying for underperformance year after year. If this is landing for you, take a second and subscribe. We break down exactly this kind of thing every week. Number 5. There's a strong instinct after a lifetime of work to reward yourself with more house. The bank tells you the number you qualify for, and that number is almost always larger than what's wise. Because a house is the rare purchase that keeps charging you long after you've signed for it. A bigger home means bigger property taxes, bigger insurance, bigger maintenance. That bill arrives every year, whether you budgeted for it or not. The Social Security cost of living raise for 2026 came in at just 2.8%, pushing the average benefit past $2,000 a month. A modest cushion that an oversized home can swallow whole before the month is even half over. The 4-bedroom house that felt like a triumph at 50 can feel like a quiet anchor at 75. So the wealthy do something the broader market treats as a step backward. They right-size on purpose. Some downsize and free up trapped equity. Others simply stay in the modest place they paid off years ago and refuse to trade up just because a lender says they can. Either way, the money that would have heated empty guest rooms flows instead toward travel, family, and the freedom to say yes when it actually matters. Number 4, the presentation is always charming. A beautiful resort, a free dinner, a warm host. What almost nobody calculates in that room is what those free vacations actually cost once the ink dries. The average annual maintenance fee on a timeshare hit around $1,500 in 2024 and jumped more than 17% in a single year, far outpacing inflation. Stretch that over 20 years, and the maintenance fees alone top $40,000. That figure doesn't even include the purchase price or the surprise assessments when a roof needs replacing. And the cruelest part, those fees never stop. Pay it off completely, and the bills just keep coming, whether you visit or not. Wealthy retirees almost never go near them. When they want a week somewhere warm, they simply rent it and owe nothing the moment they check out. Total freedom. Not a single contract clinging to them for decades. Number 3. Every year, the same ritual returns. A new phone, a thinner laptop, a launch event engineered to make last year's perfectly functional device feel like a relic. The quietly wealthy sit the whole ritual out. Not because they can't afford it, because they refuse to pay what amounts to an early adopter tax. They let a device do its job for years, then buy a model or two behind the bleeding edge, after the price has dropped and the early glitches are patched. The phone still makes calls. The difference in price goes straight into the market instead, where it grows. On one purchase, this looks trivial. Repeated across decades and every category of gadget, it becomes a steady river of money flowing toward their future, instead of a launch day line outside a store. Number 2. The lottery doesn't really sell tickets. It sells a feeling, hope. The problem starts when the daydream becomes a weekly habit. Per capita lottery spending in the U.S. now tops $300 a year, and heavy players average around $2,500 annually. Much of it from households that can least afford to lose it. The odds of a major jackpot sit near 1 in 292 million. You are statistically more likely to be struck by lightning. But here's the real cost. Take that same $2,500 a year, invest it instead at a normal long-term market rate, and over 25 years, it grows into more than $150,000. The lottery sells a near impossible shortcut. Compounding offers something close to a certainty, just slower and far less thrilling on a Wednesday night. Number 1. This is quite possibly the most expensive habit in modern American life, and it disguises itself as simple convenience. The average credit card interest rate now sits around 21%. Americans collectively carry more than $1.2 trillion in card balances. Carry just $5,000 at that rate, and you hand over roughly $1,000 a year in pure interest, before you've paid down a single dollar of what you actually bought. It's the exact same compounding force that builds wealth for patient investors, running in reverse, pointed directly at you. The wealthy treat the credit card as a tool, nothing more. They use it for rewards and convenience, and pay the statement in full every single month. Every time. The card works for them instead of the other way around. There's a reason the people with the most money are so often the ones who owe the least. Step back and look at all 10 together. The car, the watch, the warranty, the wrong insurance, the high-fee fund, the oversized house, the timeshare, the launch day gadget, the lottery ticket, the carried balance. On the surface, they look like they have nothing in common. Underneath, they're the exact same decision made 10 different ways. Each one quietly trades a piece of your future for something that merely looks like wealth right now. The people who end up genuinely secure are simply the ones who learned, somewhere along the way, to stop making that trade. Not in one burst of willpower, as a quiet default, repeated over and over. And that's the encouraging part. A default can be rebuilt. You don't need a windfall or a higher salary to start refusing the trades that quietly drain you. You just need to see them clearly, the way the person at that jewelry counter learned to see them. The watch goes back in the case. The future goes into the account instead. What ties every item on this list together isn't iron discipline or some rare gift for saying no to nice things. It's understanding. Once you grasp how money actually behaves, how fees erode it, how depreciation works against you in the dark, these choices stop feeling like sacrifices and start feeling obvious. The retirees who refuse to buy these 10 things aren't depriving themselves of a good life. They're buying the one thing money can actually purchase, the freedom to stop worrying about it. If this foundation has never been laid out for you clearly, that's the natural place to start. Before the budgeting apps, before the hot stock tips. I have a full breakdown of exactly that foundation waiting for you. Start there.